I know it's kind of a cliche, but I think everybody wants to know. As far as I know, regarding to your book, you studied journalism, law, and politics. What made you end up with Iran? How did you come to Iran?
Actually, that's the question most people ask me first. Like, why a German woman comes to Iran alone, traveling here and then working on this topic. The first time I came to Iran 10 years ago, it was totally different time. Ahmadinejad, no European really traveling to Iran. I was a student and I studied Middle Eastern studies, politics and psychology, and I learned also Farsi to a, let's say, slight extent. I wasn't able to speak, and so I decided, okay, I go to Dehkhoda here, the institute, to really learn to speak Farsi. And that's what I did. I just came for 4 months, and yeah, I'm still 10 years later, I'm still here. Of course, not living here, but I went back and forth over the course of the last 10 years. So I studied Middle Eastern studies, politics, and psychology. And after my studies, I first went into consulting. I became a research analyst, working for companies in Germany, then for startups in Europe. But after a certain time, and also after Iran opened up, like politically and economically, I saw the chance to do something in Iran. So I always had this love for Iran. I wanted to go back and do something on my own. And this was 2 years ago. Then I decided, okay, you have this interest in interior design. You know how to write. I was always like as I said, like a writer, research analyst. I had some business knowledge from my time at the startup. And Iran was a place where it seemed like 2 years ago, especially, like it seemed, okay, you can do almost now everything, like all these new projects came up. So I decided, okay, let's go to Iran, do this project for a year with my own investment, and hopefully also give something back to Iran and bring like the design scene in Iran a bit, into the 21st century.
Are you familiar with Iranian poems and philosophy, because you started your book with a poet of Rumi?
Yeah, and actually Rumi is one of my favorite poets, next to a lot of others. I studied a lot of Persian poetry. It's of course really important in Iranian culture. Why I choose this quote by Rumi? Because the quote describes what I feel Iran is about, like, or Iranians, like the issue they have is actually everything you're searching for lies in your own culture. Iranians always, they seek to go to the West, especially. They seek to go out and everything is like glorious and perfect, and that's what they want. A lot of, I mean, it's of course generalizing, but and I think it's kind of a underestimation of your own culture. And that's what I wanted to show with this quote. Okay, before you go out and you travel to Germany or let's say Australia, travel in Iran. You have a lot to discover in your own country, in your own self.
How could you find the Iranian designers, considering you're being from another part of the world? How did you find Iranian designers?
You mean the designers in the book?
Yes.
I started really classic. I of course talk to everyone I know in Iran before I came to Iran. I did some internet research, some social media research. Thank God Iranians are so in love with Instagram. Whenever there is a picture of a nice house, I'm like, oh, where is this house? Who does it belong to? And then, I mean, I came to Iran, and at the end of the day, you have to speak to a lot of people. You have to go to a lot of places. I think I'm a person. I'm reaching out to all levels of a society. So I'm not just only, let's say, I'm not Neovaron only person. I'm also not a Bazaar only person. So I'm going everywhere, and I'm speaking to everyone. I was traveling 6 weeks just around Iran, and just knocking at doors saying, okay, this looks like a nice house. Would you mind that I have a look at it? And of course it played out that I'm a foreigner who speaks Farsi. People are more open when a woman who is obviously a foreigner, so there is no danger of having like some agenda or coming from the government, just knocks and asks, okay, could I have a look at this house? People were also, of course, proud of what they had to show. So especially proud to show it to the foreign world, which was me representing it. So they introduced me, and one person introduced me to the next one. In shops, they said, oh yeah, you should check out this house. And it just kind of like snowball system, it went its way. But it was, of course, a combination of me also doing the internet research, going like checking books, and I'm still doing the same at the moment, and then talking to a lot of people.
How much time you spend on it?
As I said, like this book was done with my own investment, so I couldn't afford that it would take like 2 to 3 years. At the end, we did it in 8 months. From the time I started my research until the day we printed, it was 8 months. So actually 1 month is just printing, so within 7 months we actually finished the book. I want to say it's really also we finished the book, because I mean I'm the writer and publisher, but I worked with Hamid Farhangi, who's the photographer, who's living in Tehran. I worked with
He was with you in all the project?
Yeah, he was doing the entire project with me. He had, like, I would say, the worst time of his life and the best time of his life with me. We were traveling for 1 month, taking pictures of 16 houses, which is a lot. It was a lot of work. It was high pressure. No Iranian way of working. It was definitely like the German. And then, of course, there was a Portuguese layouter, an American proofreader involved, a Spanish printer. So all these people worked together,
combined
actually.
Together,
yeah.
too. I want to ask you, what was the most interesting designs among all of these to you, and why is that?
I show in the book different styles, and of course some of the styles they are more like the way I also live, or they're more similar. That's why I prefer them. But all of them, like, they have their own distinct character, and so there is not one where I would say, okay, that's the best, perhaps, to say. I think there is not the best house. I always loved the house of Vida Kalantari in Kashan, because it's also from
the first one.
Yeah, the first one, because it's from the size. It's really a family house, and you can see that their family gathers together there. Their way of living really comes together, and you see that they decorated everything themselves. They have, of course, really good taste. A lot of antiques also. It's really nice. But there are other houses. I also love the house of Nushin Riasi, and it's close to Tabas. It's a total different house. It's not one of these kavir houses, not of the desert houses, the traditional courtyard houses, but a garden house. So you have this huge terrace and on the first floor, and you overlook the desert. It's a total different feeling. And I mean, there are many more houses like this. For example, in the south, I really like the style of the south in Iran, so that we use a lot of hasir, reed. I really like the shomal houses, wooden, but unfortunately, so far we don't have any designed house.
من آخرین گرده پشت پای سواران بودم وقتی آخرین باران شرجی تیر خراسان
Do you have any ideas of other projects in Iran?
Yeah, I'm lucky or unlucky that I have too many projects in mind. I really have a lot. I'm working on the second book actually. Yeah, so because there are more houses, as I said, there are more styles, and I'm really happy to see after we published this book, a lot of people went and rented or bought houses and said they want to do something similar. They want to combine Iranian and modern style. So this is one thing I'm working on the second edition, which will hopefully be published next year. I'm working with different clients on different projects, like as a freelancer. Then starting an e-commerce for Iranian design in Europe, because I think still there is nothing like this. A lot of my friends, they always want me to bring them things, and I said, okay, I can't always carry 5 suitcases, so we have to start a shop like this.
On behalf of the Iranian designers and architects of new generation, I want to thank you. I appreciated what you've done for us.
I think I never lost my love for Iran. Like when I came the first time to Iran, 2009, I mean, it was like I was like every tourist who comes to Iran. You have no idea, you have no clue what you have to expect. You just know you have to put on a headscarf and some the religious part, but you don't know how people are. And I actually arrived in Tehran, and a friend of mine had like cousins here, and she said you can stay the first week with them, and then you will find a house. So I actually never in my life stayed in Tehran in a hotel or hostel or nothing. I was always with people, and it continued over the years. So it was a different feeling. I felt welcomed by family and friends from the beginning. And then when I studied Farsi after, I came here for 5 months. And after actually 3 months, I fell in love with an Iranian man, like most people do, I guess. I was 20. Yeah, I was 22. I was really, really young. It's really funny, long time ago. And I think it made a difference, of course. Like through him, I got to know Iranian culture, like really by heart. With like emotions, I still, people sometimes they are like astonished of words I know, and I'm like, oh yeah, this word I know like since 10 years. Like I had a boyfriend, so especially words like boys use, like slang, and this makes you part of the society. Even if I'm always saying I will never be part of an like the Iranian world, even if I would live here, I'm always a foreigner. But yeah, I fell in love with Iran, and then this love continued to bring me back. I came back and did an internship here with actually in a rehabilitation center for drug addicts. So total different thing. Then I came back to just travel. Then I came back to see my friends. Then I came back to do a photo project with a German Iranian photographer, and so the relationship continued. But then, like the whole opening up of Iran, the Iranian economy, the Iranian political scene, kind of also created this desire inside myself to I want to go back to Iran. It was always there. For example, in 2013, when I decided to move to Barcelona with my partner back then, we were thinking about 3 different cities. The cities were New York, Tehran, and Barcelona. It's a real weird mix. But it ended up being Barcelona. But already at that moment, I was like, I want to live again. Or I never lived in Tehran, but I want to live in Iran. I didn't do it, but I went back in 2016 because my position got laid off at my job. I had a breakup, so I was like everyone who's after a big breakup, you're searching for something new, which is like distracting you. I had a certain financial saving, so I could say, okay, I do my own project, and I really had to decide to do my own or have my own business. Everything taken together was like, okay, let's go to Iran. It's the land of possibilities at the moment. And that's how Iran to me felt in 2016. It felt like everyone was doing something new. And before that, I had never felt that atmosphere in Iran. It was really exciting. I loved how positive people were, how energetic. And doing the book, it was for me, it was on one hand a project I could do by myself with working with freelancers. It was not too big, it wasn't too small. But it was also like my interest for interior design, architecture, صنایع دستی, handicraft has always been there. When I travel, I'm the first one who goes to see some old man in some workshop just to see how they do things by hand. And this interest, I think together with Iran, it was just obvious to make a book out of it, because there is no book like this book on Iran.
Yes,
we have a lot of interior design books on India, Marrakesh, whatever, Argentina, Denmark, but we never had one on Iran. And it was for me always weird, because Iran is such a big country. After India, we have the second biggest variety of handicrafts. The architecture is really famous, but so why did never someone write a book on the interior design part? I wanted to do it, and I have to admit, I never knew, okay, will you find these houses? Will you find the style you're looking for? Iranian style, which is not just rural, traditional, without any design thinking behind it. For me, it was important always, and that's all over my work, that a certain level of professionalism is reached. And so I saw a lot of houses. I saw probably during the research, I saw around 300 houses, I would say. And now we have 16 houses in the book. A lot of the houses didn't reach that level I was looking for. They were perhaps Iranian style, but there wasn't this touch where you're like, wow, I really wanted to find houses which generated this wow feeling for people visiting. When I came here and started this project, I didn't know if I would find these houses. I was lucky to find these houses, and I actually wanted to show Iranians or people here, but also of course people outside, but mostly people in Iran, okay, you can create this great design. You can have a modern house which has some Iranian identity. We don't have to have houses which are just Western styled, Western furnished. It doesn't mean when we talk about Iranian style that we all sleep on the floor and we eat on the floor and we have the hammam outside of the house. That's not Iranian. I think we had a lack of bringing Iranian style into the 21st century, into modernity in the last couple of decades. But with this book, I wanted to show, no, it is actually possible. And like these people have done it. Of course, this book for me, it was a way to show foreigners how Iran is kind of, through a topic everyone understands, like beauty, design, a lot of people understand. I think it's apart from all these political stories of, oh, okay, Iran, what is going on with the government. It's more about, okay, these are people, they're interested in design. They also, like you and me, like to decorate their house in a nice way. And they also have a distinct style, which is coming from, or borrowing elements from their own culture, the rich Iranian heritage.
I want to know about the reaction for the book outside of Iran.
The reaction was really great, I have to admit. Both in Europe and also the US, which are the biggest markets for the book outside of Iran. People had never seen something like this before. And I think that's actually something people inside Iran share with people outside of Iran. Most people say, oh, we have never seen something like this. And for foreigners, it is a new look at Iran. Of course, they are also used to the general theme around Iran being on sanctions, Iran, whatever. It's mostly political human rights issues. So for them, it was a fresh new look. They were like, wow, that's really nice houses in Iran. And I think they appreciated it. That's like, we got, and I'm really happy to say that we got just on Amazon, everything is always 5-star ratings, and people are really like, wow, that's something so new. So I'm really happy that people like it that much. And then I think this way we will actually also save the knowledge we have, because this is one of the reasons I wrote the book. I'm afraid that a lot of knowledge, a lot of craftsmanship, we're losing because people, often these are all elderly people. They're just dying, and with them, like, all this knowledge is dying, and we won't get it back. I mean, we see this already in صنایع دستی and handicrafts in Iran, that some techniques we just don't know anymore because there's no one left who knows how to do things. So I hope with this book, like, people also understand that what we have, we can use, and that there are actually business opportunities in it. I'm always saying this, even in the crisis situation we are at the moment. I do think architecture, صنایع دستی, these are all fields for innovation, for trying things newly, and then it will also جواب میده.